special edition episodes. I'm Mia Gibson, serving as your state secretary.
And I'm Blake Vanderkamp, serving as your state reporter. And in this episode, we'd like to congratulate our champion and reserve champion poultry and rabbit exhibitors.
The 2020 Special Edition FFA Rabbit Show was held on August 7th. 35 FFA members from 19 chapters exhibited 237 animals. Jenna Simon of the Boyer Valley FFA chapter exhibited the Champion Roaster Pen, Reserve Champion Roaster Pen, Champion Fryer Pen, Champion Meat Pen, Reserve Champion Meat Pen, Reserve Roaster Individual, and the Reserve Fryer Individual. Jordan Buscher from the ALGONA FFA chapter exhibited the Reserve Champion Fryer Pen, Champion Roaster, Champion Fryer Individual, Champion Meat Rabbit Individual, and the Reserve Champion Meat Rabbit Individual.
The 6 class breed rabbits were as follows. Within the California Rabbit Division, our champion and reserve champion was none other than Jordan Buscher from ALGONA. Our Champagne d'Argent champion and reserve champion both come from the Northeast District. Aaron Bryan from the Crestwood FFA chapter was our champion, and Nora Ryan from the Crestwood FFA chapter was our reserve. Now moving on to our checkered giant rabbit. Both our champion and reserve champion were Jalen Vanderwood from the North Mahaska FFA. Our cinnamon rabbit also had the champion and reserve champion rabbit, this being Justin Curian from the Crestwood FFA chapter. The New Zealand champion and reserve rabbits hailed from the Boyer Valley FFA chapter. Thus, our champion and reserve champion was Jenna Simone from the Boyer Valley. In our other register 6 class breeds division, our champion was Brian Hahn from the Mediapolis FFA chapter, and our reserve was also Brian Hahn from the Mediapolis FFA. The New Zealand champion and reserve champions rabbits hailed from the Boyer Valley FFA chapter. Thus, our champion and reserve champion was Jenna Simone, hailing from Boyer Valley. In our other register 6 class breeds division, our champion was Brian Hahn for the Mediapolis FFA chapter, and our reserve was also Brian Hahn from Mediapolis. Our Division 6 class breeds rabbit champion hails from the ALGONA FFA chapter, and is none other than Jordan Buscher. And our reserve champion was Aaron Ryan from the Crestwood FFA.
The 4 class breeds of rabbits went as followed. Exhibiting the champion and reserve champion Dutch rabbit was Jalen Vanderweyer from the North Mahaska FFA chapter. From the Boyer Valley FFA chapter, Jason Gordon exhibited the champion and reserve champion Fortia White. The champion mini lop went to Nora Ryan from the Crestwood FFA chapter. From the North Scott FFA chapter, Raven McCabe exhibited the reserve mini lop. From the T55 chapter, Ella Shipper exhibited the champion mini Rex. Hannah Bedwell, representing Interstate 35 chapter, exhibited the reserve mini Rex. Champion Me Satin went to Cody Caron from the Crestwood chapter. Jaden Niemeyer from Colonesco FFA chapter exhibited the reserve Me Satin. The champion Netherland Dwarf was exhibited by Jenna Simon from the Boyer Valley FFA chapter. From the Des Moines chapter, Lauren Chayette exhibited the reserve Netherland Dwarf. Kinlan James from Linville Sully exhibited the Polish champion. The reserve Polish went to Callan Engelbrecht from the North Scott FFA chapter. Exhibiting your champion and reserve champion Rex Rabbit was Callan Engelbrecht from the North Scott FFA chapter.
Within the divisions of fur and wool rabbits, your champion white fur rabbit goes to Jenna Simon of Boyer Valley, and your reserve champion white fur rabbit goes to Colton Niemeyer of Colonesco. Your champion color fur rabbit goes to Ella Shipper of T55, and your reserve champion color fur rabbit goes to Cody Carrion of Crestwood.
The 2020 State Fair Special Edition FFA Poultry Show was held August 15th, where 40 members from 23 chapters exhibited 270 animals.
There were 3 divisions bringing up the Market Broiler Pen at the Fair 2020 Special Edition. For Market Pullet Pen, Lila Crawl from West Branch was your champion. Maddie Hartz was your reserve champion from West Branch. For Market Cockerel Pin, Nick Oldenburger from Appleton Parkingsburg was your champion. Cody Winkler was your reserve champion from Orient Mackelsburg. Market Mix Pen, Keegan Curell from East Buckman was your champion. Claire Woodworth from Panorama was your reserve champion. And your overall grand champion market broiler pen was Nick Oldenburger from Appleton Parkingsburg. And your reserved overall champion was Lila Crawl from West Branch.
Moving on, your American breed champion was Abigail Bean from Sioux Center. Skylar Windy from Pleasantville was your reserve. Mariah Wolf from Newton was your Aztec breed champion, and Logan Osmond from Odin was your reserve. Miranda Benginston from Davis Rogers was your Mediterranean breed champion. There was no reserve in this category. Your English breed champion was Miranda Benginston from Davis Rogers, and your reserve was Rio Johnson from Atlantic. John Chenier from Midland was your champion and reserve champion continental. In the all other standard breeds, Rio Johnson from Atlantic was your champion, and Abigail Bean from Sioux Center was your reserve champion. Moving on to your bantam breeds. In your bantam modern game, Abigail Bean from Sioux Center was your champion. Abigail Bean from Sioux Center was also your bantam old English game champion, and Rio Johnson from Atlantic was your reserve. Your bantam single comb clean leg champion was Abigail Bean from Sioux Center, and Brett Chenier from Midland was your reserve. In your bantam rose comb clean legged, Brett Chenier from Midland was your champion, and Abigail Bean from Sioux Center was your reserve. Skylar Windy from Pleasantville was your bantam all other comb clean legged champion, and Keely Breckenholz from Newton was your reserve champion. In the Bantam's Feather Legs breed, Logan Osmond from Odin was your champion, and Zoe Fisher from Midland was your reserve champion. Your Grand Champion Bantam Chicken was exhibited by Abigail Bean from Sioux Center, and your reserve champion was exhibited by Brett Chenier from Midland. Your Grand Champion Large Chicken was also exhibited by Abigail Bean from Sioux Center, and your reserve was Skylar Windy from Pleasantville. Your Supreme Champion Poultry was exhibited by Abigail Bean from Sioux Center, receiving champion and reserve champion.
The Champion Breeder Duck was exhibited by John Steffen of the Waverly-Shellrock FFA chapter. Weston Ploger of the Panorama FFA chapter exhibited the Reserve Champion Breeder Duck. Connor Reed of the AgriPower FFA chapter showed the Champion Breeder Geese. The Reserve Champion Breeder Geese was exhibited by Cody McCready from the Atlantic FFA chapter. The Champion Breeder Turkey was exhibited by Zoe Fisher of the Mid-Prairie FFA chapter. Your Grand Champion Breeding Bird was exhibited by John Steffen of the Waverly-Shellrock FFA chapter. Connor Reed from the AgriPower FFA chapter showed your reserved Grand Champion Breeding Bird.
Within your Broilers division, Kane Hall from AgriPower had your champion, and Caden Hall from AgriPower had your reserve champion. Jennifer Holliday from Nodaway Valley had your champion and your reserve champion roosters. Zoe Fisher from Mid-Prairie exhibited your champion turkey. Your Grand Champion Commercial Pen was exhibited by Jennifer Holliday from Nodaway, and Zoe Fisher from Mid-Prairie exhibited your reserve champion. Moving on to your white egg layer, CALLAN Wiley from Starmont had your champion. Your champion brown egg layer was exhibited by James Hughes from Des Moines. Your Grand Champion egg layer was exhibited by CALLAN Wiley from Starmont, and James Hughes from Des Moines exhibited your reserve champion. Once again, congratulations to all the poultry and rabbit exhibitors at the FFA shows.
We'd like to thank you for all your hard work and dedication these past few weeks.